Hello and good morning, you two. First of all, before we even check in listening to this podcast, there is no way that you suddenly said, oh, let's do a podcast, and then poof, there it was. You guys put your entire soul and many years into this, didn't you?
Man, that literally means a lot, because it's true. It took like 1 month to create each episode, so thank you for saying that.
The idea came to you because you were approached, but as a journalist, though, I mean, it had to have been, we're still in these early stages of what podcasting can do for a great story.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You're really speaking my language, because that's really how I think about it. That I thought that it's still a young medium, and if you think about early radio or early film, there you can still have innovations and advancements. So I just thought, can we do better, more immersive storytelling?
Aliia, how did they approach you to be a part of this? I mean, did you just step out, or did you see something in a newspaper? What brought you to this?
To create the podcast, do you mean, Arrow?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I'm basically...
You can tell the truth.
I can tell the truth. So basically, you can listen to it, how we met with Neil in the first episode, literally like that. Well, we have a mutual friend, and
right.
When he heard my story, he introduced me to Neil, and then we just, we just talk, and we just decided to do the podcast. Yeah, that's how it was.
One of the things that I've really kind of thought about, Neil, while listening to these podcasts on iHeartRadio, is the fact that it's almost like we're being introduced to a different version of human trafficking, and it's being used in a different way. I would have never thought about, a sex scandal like this.
I think it's really true. And when I talked to Robin Dreek from the FBI, who was on the kind of Russia, working with Russia for many, many, many years, he's like, that's what they do. It's human trafficking, but it's a sort of an insidious form, almost like a gaslighting. And Aliia maybe can comment on it more, that at the time, Aliia's thinking, I'm serving my country and I'm a hero. And then later you kind of wake up from watching. Is that right, Aliia?
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
When you wake up like that, because here in the States, we have cults. We have, these religious cults and things, and people never believe that they're in it. When was that wake-up call for you, Aliia?
Oh, you know what? That's a great question. To be honest, I never thought about that till the moment Robin actually mentioned it. Seriously. I felt like, okay, I did my job as many others whom I knew, and I would live like that, and for me, life was like divided for two parts. The past, which I never wanted to remember, and I just literally blocked the whole memories. And I started to live like a new life, pretending that I'm another person. And then it was, just like living as a zombie, as being numb. And then when we started to work with Neil, and I started to went through all these details and memories once again, I realized how I was brainwashed, before, and how I had to do something which I never even could imagine I would do in my life. That was hard.
One of the things that you do, Neil, in To Die For, is the fact that it is a storytelling event. In other words, it's not that you're just jumping on there as a journalist. I really feel like that I'm a part of this when I go in and I can hear the different sound effects in the background. The music is so important. It draws me even closer to the storyline itself. This really is a production.
Oh, man, my producer... Tristan and Donald, they're going to be so happy to hear what you're saying, because we really try to do that. It's to take you there and have you live that experience, and so that you start listening, you just sort of get drawn into this world through, like you said, the music and the sound effects and Aliia's voice and the other voices that come in there, and I think that really is the power of like radio and podcasting, that you can use your imagination and imagine yourself there as you listen.
Well, let me tell you something. You're right about that when it comes to the imagination, because in reality, I don't know what you guys look like. And I think that's part of the connection between the listener and the podcaster, is the fact that you're really getting inside that imagination.
I'm laughing because this is so funny, because there was just between us three and not everybody else listening. When we were doing the cover, Aliia really thought Aliia's got a amazing look and has done modeling red carpets and those kinds of things. So she really wanted her photo on the cover, and I understood that. But I thought it's really much more cool if people can, like you said, use their imaginations and have no photos.
Yeah.
So we kind of met in the middle. So I like that you said that.
Aliia, a sexpionage has always been around us. We've seen it in a Tom Cruise movie. We saw it in James Bond, but we never went into the story like this podcast goes into the story. This totally uncovers something.
Well, yes, it does. That's why we did it, to explain people that it does exist, because people still feel that spies and all the things is just a movie. Nobody really knows what is espionage, and nobody really believes that this does exist, which is very weird to hear to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully people will realize that this is all true, and who knows, maybe they live among these neighbors, spies who, quite dangerous to them if they will talk too much.
Neil, being this close to the story, do you have to look over your shoulder? I mean, you're uncovering some stuff here.
Yeah, it's very strange. And both Aliia and I have had experiences since here where we felt maybe their car is parked outside, or maybe we're following. And you don't know, do you just get paranoid when you're doing this? Because, I mean, obviously the Russian government doesn't like its critics, or B, is this really happening?
How were you physically trained, Aliia, into doing this in the way of, because I always believe that a man can't keep a secret. I can't. Was it easy to penetrate, that secret, or did you have to really bust some serious tail?
Neil created for me a safe space.
Yeah.
And I never... Okay, so after my job, I cannot trust people. I'm sorry. It's really hard, So when we met with Neil, and he kind of like gave me that, security that I can open up myself, and finally... I felt like I can tell the whole truth, and I can be heard, in terms of Neil could understand and feel my pain like no one else. Maybe because I felt that Neil been through his own pain, and I felt like I can share it, and Neil would understand how to show it to the world, and I really feel that we attract who we are, and the universe always brings you to those people who can help you to go through your own trauma if you want to be healed. That's how I look at this.
Neil, did you feel like a spy? I mean, because really you're messing around with another government spy, therefore doesn't that make you a spy?
Yeah, it's funny, good question. I feel like a spy. I guess I felt more journalistic, or more like a reporter. In other words,
okay.
I felt, and I do a lot of dangerous.
Yes, you do.
I guess I do a lot of dangerous things. I don't know why. I really need to stop for peace of mind. But I feel like stories need to be told, and so I really felt like a piecing together piece of a puzzle. She'd tell her story, and then I'd bring in people in the FBI or the CIA or journalists who were banned from Russia, war reporters, to sort of help contextualize and explain it. So I felt more like an investigator than a spy, maybe.
Aliia, because podcasting really wraps around the world, do you expect other sex spies to step out and start sharing their story, or is it really a hush-hush situation?
Well, I do believe that those former spies, right, they can talk about it. Unfortunately, not all of them, they have bravery enough to talk, because as you remember, former FSB agent Litvinenko was poisoned by polonium in London in 2006. So we can see all these examples of those former agents who were trying to speak out and trying to deliver the truth to people, but yet they've been silenced. So hopefully I won't. We'll see what happened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Arrow, literally why we're doing this, we haven't talked about this, maybe we'll talk about it in the podcast, but literally why we were doing this Aliia had a friend who I believe was an agent. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Aliia, who I was going to speak with, who was in Europe, and literally weeks before that, she passed away under mysterious circumstances. Is that right, Aliia?
Yeah. When she, just to add, when she actually agreed eventually to give interview and speak with Neil, and she was an active agent, and she did exactly same stuff as me, and they thought like it would be a really great addition to the podcast, and just to hear her voice and explaining all the things, because she was doing like big missions. And when she agreed, because I took responsibility to help her to move to United States under political asylum. So at that moment, when it exactly was the beginning of Ukrainian war. Then unfortunately she passed away. She was killed. I don't know, and I would never know.
And I was going to ask you, do you have to get permission to be able to talk about this? Because I know here in the States, if you have served our military and you write an autobiography, you've got to get physical, permission from the Pentagon to even do this book, and you've got to let them edit it. So when you're so open, which you are on this podcast, I'm going, my God, did she get permission? Does she have to have permission? What gives here?
That's a great question, by the way. Well, first of all, I didn't get any permission, because I'm not sharing any secret conspiracy, whatever names, against Russian government or whatever. Just my life story, and I explain how it was when I was there. Besides, I fled the Russia when, in 2009. So all these years, for almost 15 years, I lived in Europe. I moved to United States just a few years ago from London. So I have total different situation.
Now, Neil, do you get to be a part of the actual production of the podcast in the way that, I realize you're out there, you're getting the story, you're getting the sound, and then do you just relinquish the sound to your producers and then they put it together, or do you get to be in that studio?
Yeah, no, I'm involved in every aspect of the process. It's almost like a band. So it's myself and really my engineer producer, Tristan Pankston, who's in the room. And we just sort of compose it together. He's the sound artist and I'm the storytelling artist. But it's really like a band. So we kind of compose it together, which is so fun that's why I love podcasting versus a film where if you write the screenplay, then they're like, thank you, goodbye.
Aliia, this is almost like you looking in the mirror and sharing your story. The person that's on the outside of the mirror, what has she learned about the person in the mirror?
I love this question. Thank you. Because she learned a lot, it's been a very long journey. And just by this age, I realize what I've really been through. And I do now, it's almost like being a bird, like phoenix, which dies, but then reborn from all the ashes. And I feel exactly the same way. I've been dead all these years, and now probably this is the first time when I feel alive. So I learned how to feel, how to really experience emotions, which is so hard. Honestly, it's so painful. It's very painful to leave.
Neil, I got to give you kudos because you are living what podcasting really started out to be back in the 1980s. And it was authors as well as journalists who had a story to share, and you happened to record your voice. And then it became comedians and radio disc jockeys and actors and things like that. But you are proving the strength of what podcasting is.
Yeah, and I always love the old idea of the radio plays back in the, whatever it is, the 1920s, say. And even though podcasting seems like a new medium, it's also returned to those, which were also newsreels and things like that. It's also returned to that time.
Wow. You guys have got to come back to this show anytime in the future. And before I check out here, is there going to be a season 2? Because I don't think 8 episodes is enough.
I love that you asked that because yes, in June 4th, so it's really short. That another set of 6 to 8 episodes that tell the next part of the story, which are really like, like what happens next. Like and I'm not just saying this to get people to listen, but it's literally unpredictable. Like you would never. It's a wild story and takes her to interesting places. So for sure. Wow. So maybe we can go then. I love this interview. So thank you.
Well, then we will be talking again, sir.
Thank you.
Great. I'm looking forward to it, Arrow.
Yeah, me too.
The two of you, be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the questions that really come from your own curiosity, which I love.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and have a good camping.